CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my session today for the APAC Groundbreakers Tour 2021. So I'd like to get started by introducing myself. My name is Shakeeb, Rahmaan, and I'm an architect on the Oracle Apex team. And I am responsible for the design user experience of Apex, as well as a number of special projects. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how you can use Apex to build a really incredible user experience for your day-to-day users. So let's get started. We're going to begin our application with a copy of the Movies lab. So there's a new application lab that we've created that walks you through the steps of creating a movies watch list application. You're going to start with this, and I'm going to go ahead and install the application as it is at the very end of the lab, and then we're going to go and customize. So all the data sources, everything is already set up for us. We're going to go and update the navigation a little bit. We're going to go and update some of the styles and use some custom CSS and variables to update the UI to be exactly the way we like it. We're going to use theme roller and apply some theme roller styles to get our application with a light and dark mode. And then finally, we're going to convert this application to a PWA and see how this looks like on a mobile device. So let's get started. Now I'm running the Apex Movies Watchlist application that you've created by following the lab. To download the lab, just simply go to apex.oracle.com/go/movieslab, and I'll show you what this looks like here. Right, sorry about that. So you're going to go to that URL right here, apex.oracle.com/go/movieslab, click enter, and this will take you to the step-by-step instructions. At the very end of the lab, by going to lab 10, you can go ahead and download the application here, but I really encourage you to go through and follow the steps because you'll need an API key to the movie database, and it will also go ahead and walk you through how to set this application up, which I believe already provides a very good user experience. So here we are, and this is what the application looks like when you run the application. Here I have some movies in my watch list that I've added. I can go ahead and add some more movies. So I simply click on the Add Movie button. I'm going to go and search for a movie. So I like the Alien series of movies. I'm going to search for Alien, and I'm going to go ahead and add Alien versus Predator. I simply click on the movie, and it'll go to the details screen. It's going to show me some information, the movie overview, and so on. I'll just click on Add to Watch List. It's going to take me back, and you'll notice that now I have this little added badge. So that itself is a nice user experience. But what we want to do is make this go a little bit further and build a mobile optimized user experience. So to do that, what I've done is I've copied the application over and I've added a few small pages. Basically, I've repurposed a few things to look like this. And I'll walk you through exactly what I did step by step. The first thing we have is a home page. So if I click on the movies link at the top left-hand corner, oops, sorry about that. Let me change the alias again. So if I click on the movies link at the top left corner, you'll go to the top movies page. And this is very much like going to the Add a Movie screen where we show you the top movies. So rather than hiding this in a tab, we're going to show this at the top level. Then we have a page for my movies watch list. And this is showing me actually the movies in my watch list right now. And here I can go ahead and sort this by rating, and sort this by title. I can go and add a movie directly from here as well. If I click on a movie, I can, of course, see the movie details as well right here. And we'll go ahead and fix some of these larger photos later. Finally, I've added a new tab here for watching a random movie. So if you wanted to go and watch a random movie that's already in your watch list, well, you just click on this link and it's going to show you how to do that. So what I like about this a lot is that now immediately you're provided your users with some value, right? They can already go ahead and do something in the application. So to begin, how did I go and add this to my application? So let's go into the application builder. And here I have my movies demo application. The first thing we're going to do is go into shared components, UI attributes, and then under navigation menu, you'll see that we have the navigation menu list, which is a desktop navigation menu. It's in top. And finally, this list template is going to be top navigation tabs. On desktop, we're going to show the labels inline, and on mobiles, we're also going to display the label. So just to kind of show you what this looks like on a smaller screen device. So for example, let's say on a mobile device, which is 376 pixels, you'll notice that the tabs sort of shift to the bottom. It's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on auto hide from the developer toolbar, and you'll see that now my movie has the links at the very bottom. And if I go in toggle touch mode, you can sort of see what happens here. All right. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to go and customize this list a little bit. And I want to show you how we can add a badge here that only shows up on mobile devices, so we can tell how many movies are in my watch list. To do this, let's go back into Apex and let's go to shared components. Then we're going to click on lists. And then here's my desktop navigation. I really only have 3 entries: my top movies, my movies watch list, and the random movie. So in my movies watch list entry, if I scroll down a bit more, you'll see that there's a number of these user-defined attributes. Here I have one for badge value, and I'm going to use a new application item I created called watchlist count. It's really just going to go ahead and count the amount of movies that I have in my watch list and give me a number. I also am adding this badge class here. This says visible XXS for extra small screens. And what this is going to do is only show this count on the smallest of screens, right? And the reason why is because on a mobile device, again, I'm optimizing this for mobile, I want to show a little red badge showing me exactly how many movies I have in my watch list. So that looks good so far. Let's go ahead to the next item. So when I run my application right now, I have the top movie screen, I have a search field here, and I have my cards. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to move the search into the header of my navigation and really save some space, but also do something that was a little bit difficult to do before, but now it's really trivial. So let's go ahead and go and edit this page. So simply click on edit page 20. And again, I will make this application available as part of the session show notes or shortly afterwards, so you can go and try this yourself. Here, I've got this P20 search item, and it's really just a text field that's going to go and perform that search. I'm going to move this into the before navigation bar position. If I just show you the right side, the template that it's using is the hidden label template. I've got some template options to stretch the form field and also size it to be a little bit larger. And also I have an icon here. So simply by saving this and going back to run the page, you'll notice that now my search field is at the very top of the application. So already I think it looks a little bit better. And on a mobile device, so just to show you this mobile mode, it's going to look a little bit friendlier as well. So here I have my movies application. I can go and search for movies. So if I type in, let's say, Matrix, I can hit enter, and it will show me all the movies that have Matrix in its title. So what I'm going to do now is let's go and update this application just a little bit more so that I don't just see one card at a time, but I see more than one, especially on a mobile device, because you don't want to be scrolling that much. You want to see more than one movie poster. So to do this, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and create a new style sheet within our applications. So let's go back to Page Designer and then click on the shared components icon. Let's go to Set Application Files. And here I have an application CSS file that I've created called style.css. So if you don't have one, which is totally fine, you can go and create a file, call it style.css, and Apex will do the rest. I'll simply click into it, and I want to show you some of the CSS overrides that I'm going to do. Here I have a whole lot of CSS, but really all that can come in handy later. I'm just going to remove it all and show you from the very beginning what I'm trying to do. What I want to do is I have these cards, and on a small screen, when I go back to showing you what a mobile display looks like, we only show you one card at a time. Well, there's a few CSS attributes that we can use to customize this and really show, more than just that. So we're going to use a little bit of CSS here. Let's go back to the file editor, and I'm going to paste in this little bit of code. And what this is saying is, for any screen, which is 767 pixels or smaller, really an iPad at like a portrait mode, for example, here's some styles I want to set. These are the navigation items. So we'll go back to these in a little bit. here is a variable called the card view grid gap. And here, what this means is the gap between one card to the other. And to find this out, simply go and inspect element here. And if I go through here, you'll see the regions in purple. That's the gap area. So I'm going to go and set that to be a little bit smaller so that the items are a little bit tighter together. And the other thing is, if I scroll back up a little bit, you'll see here a card view items grid 5 call. And what this says is that there's about 5 grids or 5 columns in this grid. And you can also see this here, like a grid column templates, repeat 5, min max, 0, 1, FR. Now, this is using CSS grids, which is a little bit more advanced functionality. But what you really need to know is that, hey, when I say 5 grids, 5 columns, it's going to show 5. So if I go ahead and make this 6 or 10, you'll notice that it's going to show that many number of icons. But rather than this, what I'm going to do is try to autofill as many things as possible, regardless of what the grid column setting is set to. So in order to do this, we're simply going to go and override the style a little bit. So here we have a card view items, and then we have the modifier class, right? So simply click on the plus button here and click on the inspector. And what I'm going to do now is simply replace all this with here. So what this is saying is, the grid column templates will repeat however many you can fill. We'll try to do 6 at a time, and we're going to override this. But again, we only want this to be applied when the screen is a certain size, right? So we're going to go and put this little bit of CSS inside this block, which will now only apply these styles when the screen is 767 pixels or smaller. So now, when I go to a smaller screen, you'll notice that it starts off like this, and then eventually it'll go to 6 things, and then 5, 4, 3, 2. So that's an easy way, but one thing that I don't like is that I have these titles, which are really hard to see at a small screen. So let's go ahead and hide this as well. So we're going to add one more line of CSS, which is going to be, again, in this little block for the mobile device, mobile screen size. And that's going to be to simply hide the header. Again, you can go and inspect elements and see exactly where that is. So already it looks a whole lot better, but we don't want to hide the header for all mobile use cases because sometimes it might be useful. So instead, I'm going to add another modifier here for top movies. And what this means is that I've got this class added to my page, and now I've scoped these styles. So we're going to simply copy this and go back to the page editor, and we're going to add this in. All right. So here I have just a few styles here. The grid gap to be a little bit smaller, the items to repeat, and then the top movies. I just don't want to see the movie title anymore. There's a few other things we're going to do as well. So I'll go ahead and paste in the full style sheets that I have. Now I'll walk you through this as well. The other thing I want to do is I want to go and change the font that's used for this application. So if you look at this, it's just really using the system font. So there's nothing that exciting. But instead, we're going to go and use a custom font from Google. So we're going to go to google.com/fonts. And here you can go and search through all the different fonts that are available. I like this one called Titlium Web, and it has all the different variations. You can simply type in Titlium, and you can see them all here. I've selected all the variations, and on the right side, under the use in the web section, you'll see how you can import this. So I'll click on import, and it'll show you the CSS rule to use, and also the how you can set your font family. So what I've done is exactly that. I've got my import rule here, and I'm using this variable, UT-base font family. What this means is this is going to set the base font family across the entire application. I'm also setting another variable here, the semi-bold font weight. Now, generally this is set to 500, but I wanted to make this a little bit more stronger for this application. So anytime I have a semi-bold font, For example, this right here, like top movies, it's really hard to tell that it's bolder than this, but we can now change this from a single location. Of course, you can see what this looks like. You can see all the font weights. So we have semi-bold, which is 600 in this case, bold is 700 and so on. I'm just going to make my semi-bold in my app 700. All right. So that's what this is doing. And here, what I'm doing is I'm highlighting the active navigation tab using some variables. And what this is going to do is when I go to a smaller screen, you'll notice that on the bottom where I have my tabs, there's nothing that clearly highlights that this is the active one beyond the background color based on my theme style here. So it's going to add a small red border, which is the accent color based in my application. Notice here also that you see the number 5. That's the badge count, but we're going to make this a little bit more prominent as well. And we're going to do that by setting the nav tab badge background color and text color, again, based on other variables within my application. So this is a new way of customizing universal theme and being a little bit more advanced. You can learn more about it in the universal theme reference application. Simply go to apex.oracle.com/reference, /UT. However, for right now, we're just going to set these variables. Here, I'm adding a little bit of bottom padding just so that when we have these tabs on the bottom, we can still scroll down to the full page. And I'm also going to go and hide this footer just because we want to have a hyper optimized mobile experience. So let's go ahead and hide that footer here as well. And also the logo that I have in my application, we're going to go and update this logo to be a nice little icon, but we also don't want it just to shrink any more than it needs to. All right, so let's go ahead and apply these changes. And once you've applied them, you're going to want to reference this in your application. So if I go back to static application files, you'll see this string, the reference string. So it's app files, which is new in Apex 21.2, then the style, and then #min, which will be replaced with the .min replacement string so that when you're running the application, it will load the minified style sheet. So let's go ahead and copy this. We're going to go back to the user interface attributes, and under cascading style sheets, I'm simply going to go and put this in here. I also added a version string here so that every time I update my version of the application, it's also going to pick up the latest. It's always going to force the browser to download the latest version of this file. So let's go ahead and apply that and reload the page. And already I can see a marked improvement. The font sizes are better. The font's a little bit easier to read. And on mobile devices, the experience also looks a bit nicer. Also notice that on my bottom of the screen, I have my tabs. Let's just go and position this to the left for a moment. And you'll see that I have my top movies, my watch list, and random movie. The badge list is much easier to read and overall looks better from a navigation perspective. Now, if I click on a movie right here, it's going to open this in a drawer page. And once it's opened, you'll see here, unfortunately, it's also applying the same style to this card, which previously was stretched out. So let's go ahead and go and fix that really quick. And what we're going to do is, give me one moment. All right, let's go back to your shared components. Let's go to application files, style, and instead of having this apply to all of the card items, we only really want this to apply for columns where we had set the cards to be 5-column grids, 4-column grids, and so on. So there we go. Now we can save this. Let's go back to our application, close out of this, open up another movie, and it's going to look a whole lot better. So I open up my movie, I see this drawer page, and I see the cast, which also applies the same styles. And here, notice that we're showing this because it no longer has that top movies class on the page. So really interesting here. I also want to show you a little bit about this drawer template and how this was set up. So to do this, simply click on this page and let's go into the developer tools. So this is page 3 we're looking at, and you'll see this new drawer template here. This simply means it's a new way of rendering modal dialogues where they slide in from the left or right side of your screen. And you can, of course, customize these. There's a few options here. The position, whether you want to start from the right side or left side, the size of the dialogue, whether you want the content padding to be applied or you want to remove the body padding. So just a few template options here. All right. So far, so good. The next thing we want to do is go and apply a favicon so that when you see your application and it's in your tab bar, you have a nice icon here. So generally, your application tab looks like this. This is the default favicon. And notice that for my favicon, for my top movies application, it's a little bit different. It's a yellow icon of the movies icon inside. So how did I do this? Let's go back to Page Designer, and under Shared Components, Static Application Files, I've got a few different application images that I've uploaded. One I have called favicon, which is what I'm going to be using. I also have a larger version of this, which we'll use for the iOS touch icon. So if you were to add this app to your iPhone, you'll see this icon. I also have another logo image here. This will be what I'll use for the application logo. And finally, I've got an SVG as well, the same movies logo, but we're actually going to just go ahead and use the PNG for now. I've got these three references. Let's go ahead and hook them up. So we'll start with the logo first. Now, you can go into the runtime environment as well, and you can go to customize and do the logo editor and see it in real time. But I'll show you how you can do it from the builder. So again, go back to Shared Components, user interface attributes, and here click on logo. And right now it's at the text. I'm going to go change this to image and simply paste that in, apply my changes, reload my application, and now you'll see I have a nice logo. Looks sort of like the Internet Movie Database. The next thing is we're going to go and show you how you set up the favicon. So again, also in the same place, right after logo is favicon. And you can click on the help text and it'll sort of show you all the different variations and all the full markup. But we just really need these two. We need the Apple Touch icon, which is the larger version, and we need the normal favicon, which is the smaller icon that I uploaded earlier. Just with these two things, we're going to have a nice icon at the top of our tab bar. And when you add this application to your home screen, it's going to look a whole lot better. Now, let's go ahead and run this application and do a few more things. I've got my app here, and I can see which movies I've added to my watch list. And if I click on my watch list, I also see the movies in that list. Now, there's a very intentional reason why this watch list page doesn't show things as cards, because the information here might be relevant for the use case. So in this use case, these are all the movies that I have in my list, and I simply want to be able to scroll through them really easily to find out which movie I actually want to watch. So for example, on a mobile device, it might look something like this. And here I can also sort this movie. So I can say, let me sort them by rating. Here's all the highly rated movies, or sort them by the date added. So if you added these movies a long time ago or the most recent movies, you can see that movie at the very top. It provides a very user-friendly way of viewing your watch list in a way that you would expect. If these were cards, then you wouldn't have this contextual information and you wouldn't be able to scan it, vertically. You'd have to go in a zigzag pattern, which is not as conducive. The other tab that we have is called Random Movie. And the reason why I want to show you this is a very simple piece of functionality for this very simple application, but it's serving a very important purpose. The purpose of this application is to help you get in, find a movie that you want to watch, and then get you out of the app, right? That's the purpose, is to get in there. You have a movie, you add it to your watch list, and then when you're ready to watch a movie, you open the application up, you see your watch list. But sometimes it's really hard to decide what to watch. You can go to the movie's watch list and you can search through them, but then it just never really works out. Sometimes you want to have a decision made for you. So all I've done here is I'm just querying the same data that I have other places, except now I'm just ordering, like getting a random record, a random movie from my watch list. At the bottom of the screen, I have my remove from the watch list, or I've already watched this. So an easy way of doing this. So let's see how this is set up. If I go back to edit this page, which again is simply a copy of the movie details screen here, I have my movie form, which is just capturing the information. I have this movie header cards, and this is really just selecting the first card, really the card that matches that specific ID. And then I have my actions. So this is again simply a blank with region attributes. I have a few helper classes here, which you can learn more about in the Universal Theme Reference app. But basically, I'm saying to center the buttons and also add a little bit of bottom margin in case I wanted to scroll down. And I have a couple of buttons. I have add to watch list, remove from watch list, or mark as watched. If you follow the lab, you'll know exactly how these are set up. But it's really quite simple. And all I'm doing, that little magic trick, is to put them all in the same row and column, and then using this class to center these buttons. So when I go back here, it just shows up. So now let's go back to the movies homepage. I click on this and I see all my movies. I see my, my navigation here. I can click into a movie. I can see the movie details, the same card I show here. And I also see the overview and the full cast. If I wanted to say that I've watched this movie, I can simply click on that, or I can go back and find other movies. Now, so far so good, but what if we wanted to see this on a, in a dark mode UI? So let's go ahead and set one up. I'm going to go into Theme Roller. And what I've done is I've used the Vita Dark theme style, and I've simply applied the same accent color to my application. And I've saved that already as a theme style called Vita Dark. So you can do the same thing here. Really, again, it's just like changing a few colors. I've really just changed the accent color and maybe a few others. But now we've got this nice dark mode UI. So it's an easy way to provide this UI. Once you've saved this theme, now we're going to go and enable the automatic platform switching so that if your Mac or your phone, your Android device or iOS device is in dark mode, the application automatically switches to this mode. So to do this, we're going to go back into Page Designer and go into Themes, Universal Theme, and then under Styles, you'll see my Movies Light is the current theme, which is what you want. You want this to be the default. And then Movies Dark, which is the new theme style that I have, I'm going to go in and I'm going to simply copy this output CSS URL. And then we're going to go back to UI attributes. And then at the very end under CSS, we're going to add a little bit of CSS here to load the appropriate style sheet, depending on whether you're in dark mode or light mode. And the way you do this is by using the simple media query, which begins like this. So media prefers color scheme dark, and then the actual CSS file reference. And what I'm also going to do is add a query string for version equal to the Apex version or app version. That way, it's always going to load the latest version anytime the application changes. Let's go ahead and save this. And then go and run my application. And you'll notice that nothing really changed, but that's okay. I'm going to go into my OS platform settings and just watch what happens. So now it's light. I'm going to go into dark mode, and automatically it all changed to be dark. If I go back to light mode, notice the toolbar of my browser switching alongside. Right? I can click on this. I can go and use my application just as I was going to normally. So far, so good. Now, let's go and turn this application into a PWA. So to do this, it's really quite simple. Again, go back into Apex and I go into shared components, application definition attributes, and you'll see a new section for progressive web app. Now, currently it's enabled, but all you have to do is simply toggle this option. It will not work unless you have friendly URLs enabled. So please make sure you have friendly URLs enabled first. And then you're going to go to progressive web app, enable progressive web app, make this an installable application. What this will do is it's going to also go and add the install app menu item in your navigation bar. And I'll show you a little bit more of that in just a sec. Now you can provide an application description. So let's say easily plan your next movie night. The display this can be a full screen, standalone, however you want to display this. And there's also a few definitions here. Generally, I'm going to go and use full screen. So it just kind of takes over the entire screen. I have a theme color here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the same accent color that I have here so that when my application runs, it's going to show me that same theme color. And here I have my icon URL as well for the PWA. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to click on apply changes and then I go and save those. So here again is my application. Now in Chrome, I see this little icon here that says install application. And I see my icon. I see the name of my app, movies demo, and where it's coming from. But rather than having users click here, I wanted to show an actual bar that shows up. So let's go and do that. I'll go to page 0 in my application because I really want this to show up for everybody. Now, this is not a really a recommended pattern that I would really encourage you to do unless you have a very specific use case where you really want people to use this application as a PWA. Otherwise, there are less intrusive ways of doing this. But on page 0, just for the sake of demo, I'm going to show you this. I have a region here. It's an alert region. I have set the style to be horizontal. I'm using some custom icons, just a few options here. And the most important thing is this class here, a-pwa install. And I'll show you where I got this from in just a moment. Here I have an icon, which is basically the cloud download icon. So currently it's condition never. I'm simply going to clear that condition and show it to you. Now, if I reload my application again, we're now going to see this nice little installer menu button. So this is an alert region, but all I've done is just added an icon. I've added some buttons in here, one to install the app, one to dismiss it. And then when you click anywhere really in here, what it'll do is it'll prompt you to install the application. So just like it would on any mobile device or on Android, the experience is actually quite seamless. On iOS, what we'll do is we'll show you the installation instructions for this application. So let's go ahead and plug in my iOS device and let's see how this really looks. All right, so actually I'm having a little bit of difficulty connecting my iPhone, so that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and simply share my screen and show you how the experience looks like on a desktop device instead. So let's go ahead and configure this a little bit more. Okay, so here I am showing my browser, and I'm going to go and click on the install button, and it's going to go and install the application. And here I see that I have my movies application installed. And actually on the right side, it opened up my application as if it was installed. So here's my mobile friendly movies application. And what's neat about this is that I can actually just run this application anywhere I like. I can click into it and I can interact with the application and it's all done. This is it. This is my little movie watch list application as if I'm running this on a nice little mobile device. And if I wanted to sign out and sign back in, all that behavior is still here. So I can sign in. Let's give it a second. I'll try it on my desktop to see what's going on here. Okay, there we are. So let's go back in here. So demo. And there we go. So I'm nearly running out of time, but I just wanted to show you a simple demo of how you can apply really quick little adjustments to your application to get a nice UI and really deliver a world-class user experience. Now, there's nothing secret in this application. I've really only got a few pages. Honestly, I've only added 2 new pages to the application, which is the top movies and the pick for me or the random movie. Everything else is the same that you get from following along this lab to build your own movies watch list application. All right, so there you have it. From starting with this base movies lab we were able to update the navigation, update the UI with a little bit of CSS, apply theme roller styles, and really build a dark mode and light mode application. And along the way, learn some small tips and tricks you can use to improve the user experience of your application, whether it's functional or just a visual improvement. And finally, I showed you how you can convert your application to a PWA, install the application locally. Now, you don't have to remember everything that I've done. This application will be made available shortly after the session, and you can go and play around with it yourself. But what I highly recommend you do is you go and check out the actual hands-on lab. You can go to apex.oracle.com/go/movies-lab, and you'll have everything you need to know to get started with this lab and build your own application in no time. So again, here's the URL. You can also find it on the the learning library, developer library on GitHub. But this will walk you through the entire process. And at the end of the day, you're going to get a really nice, capable application, which is fun to use. And I think that you're really going to enjoy. So with that being said, thanks so much for your time. And I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.